start.
Perfect, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. A virtual of the MAG Management Committee is called to order. We'll now ask for a roll to be called.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Management Committee. I'll go down the list of members by member agency. Please unmute and indicate if you're present. Bryant Powell.
Matt Busby is here for Bryant Powell.
Thank you, Matt. Charles Montoya. Roger Klingler. Gary Neese. Carrie Dyrick. Josh Wright.
Present.
Thank you. Crystal Dykes.
Present.
Thank you. Brent Billingsley.
Ben Bitter is here on behalf of Brent.
Thank you, Ben. Grady Miller.
Here.
Thank you. Kathy Valenzuela.
Here.
Thank you. Patrick Banger. Kevin Phelps. Julie Cairns.
Here.
Thank you. Jeff Kulaga.
Here.
Thank you. Matthew Williams. Joy Rich.
Here.
Thank you. Is anyone on from City of Maricopa? Chris Brady.
Here.
Thank you. Jill Kymack. Jeff Tyne.
Here.
Thank you. Ed Zerker.
Here.
Thank you. Is anyone on from Pinal County? John Cross.
Here.
Thank you. Scott Smith.
Here.
Thank you. Jennifer Jack.
Here.
Thank you. Is anyone on from Scottsdale? Mike Gent.
Yes.
Thank you. Reyes Medrano.
Here.
Thank you. Vince Lorfice.
Present.
Thank you. Jean Blackman.
Here.
Thank you. Jody Rooney.
Here.
Thank you. And our chair is present. A quorum is present.
Thank you. Please remember to unmute your device before speaking and set it to mute when you are not speaking to create a positive experience for all attendees. Also, a reminder, when making a motion or seconding a motion, please state your name and then make the motion so we can have the names of all the movements and seconds in the record clearly. Thank you. Item number 2 is call to the audience. Members of the public were asked to submit written comments related to this meeting through the MAG website. Comments may be sent at any time leading up to the meeting, but must be received at least 1 hour prior to the posted start time for the meeting. This is the opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda or that are on the agenda for discussion and not for action. MAG staff, have we received any public comments?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. We received no public comments for the call to the audience or any other item on the agenda.
Very good, thank you. We will now move on to agenda item number 3, Executive Director's Report. Eric Anderson will provide this report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Management Committee. I have a couple items of interest for you today. If we can go to the next slide. At your August Management Committee meeting, you made a recommendation to recognize September 1st, 2021 as appreciation for second responders. And as part of that effort, we added a page on our website so people could express their appreciation for second responders. These are the healthcare workers, not the first line of that we typically think of when we talk about first responders. These are second responders. These are healthcare workers in particular that have really gone out of their way during the pandemic. And you'll see many of the stories that have been provided on our website, very moving. These are dedicated professionals. And so I think it was totally appropriate to recognize, have a special day to recognize the second responders. So you can go to the next slide. More signs of appreciation, and one last slide on this item. So I want to thank you all for your support. It's something that we continue to watch the infection rates for COVID-19, and I think we're going to continue to be virtual here for the near term anyway, and I'll continue to watch how the virus infection rates happen. Go to the final slide, please. Just wanted to mention also September 18th is the National Cleanup Day. As you know, MAG has a very active Don't Trash Arizona anti-littering campaign that's going on for a number of years. So very happy to announce a partnership relationship with Cobblestone Auto Spa to promote clean cars, clean roads, clean communities, and they're going to help us distribute 250,000 co-branded travel trash bags. So once again, continue to look for ways to encourage people not to throw their trash out the windows on our highways. So thank you, Mr. Chair. Be happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, please contact Eric after the meeting if you do have any questions regarding his report. We will now move on to item 4, approval of the consent agenda. Today we have items 4A through 4I on the consent agenda. I would ask at this time, does any member of management committee have questions or would like any presentation on any of the items? Hearing none, could I have a motion to recommend approval of consent agenda items 4A through 4I?
So moved, Jean Blackman.
Second, Julian Goodyear.
We have a motion from Jean Blackman and a second from Julie Cairns. I guess we'll go ahead and ask if there's any discussion of the motion. Hearing none, we will call for a roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Management Committee. I will call your name. Please indicate how you vote. Matt Busby.
Aye.
Thank you. Charles Montoya. Carrie Dyrek.
Aye.
Thank you. Josh Wright.
Aye.
Thank you. Crystal Dykes.
Aye.
Thank you. Benjamin Bitter.
Aye.
Thank you. Grady Miller.
Aye.
Thank you. Kathy Valenzuela.
Aye.
Thank you. Patrick Banger.
Aye.
Thank you. Kevin Phelps. Julie Cairns.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeff Kulaga. Thank you. Matthew Williams. Joy Rich.
Aye.
Thank you. Chris Brady.
Aye.
Thank you. Jill Kymack.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeff Tyne.
Aye.
Thank you. Ed Zerker. John
Aye.
Cross. Oh, thank you, Ed. John Cross.
Aye.
Thank you. Scott Smith.
Aye.
Thank you. Jennifer Jack.
Aye.
Thank you. Mike Gent.
Aye.
Thank you. Reyes Madrano.
Aye.
Thank you. Vince Lorfeis.
Aye.
Thank you. Jean Blackman.
Yes.
Thank you. Jody Rooney.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, how do you vote?
Vote aye.
Is there anyone that I missed? The motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you. Item 5 on our agenda is recognition of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. MAG Human Services Director Kelly Williams will introduce this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the MAG Management Committee for your time today. The purpose of this presentation is to share information about activities related to honoring October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and to invite your participation in these activities, and to offer a resolution today for your recommendation for approval. Joining me today during this presentation is DC Ernst, Vice Chair of the MAG Regional Domestic Violence Council. DC's camera is not working, but she is present with us today. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Each year, MAG helps to coordinate regional activities related to raising awareness about domestic violence. This year, we are again asking for your support as we develop a calendar of events. Please send us any information about the events you have planned, including lighting buildings purple in honor of the month. The submission form is on our MAG website, and we're available to provide any technical assistance and support you may need at your events as well. Please contact us with any questions or need for assistance. We also invite you to light your buildings purple. We would be happy to post any photos that you are willing to share. Next slide, please. To show our support for the month, we will be hosting a domestic violence press event along with stakeholders on September 28th to bring attention to violence specifically against older adults. Mayor Giles, Councilmember Norton, and Alistair Adele will be speaking at the event, along with possibly a survivor who will be sharing her story. Due to the increase in COVID-19 transmission rates, we will not be having this event open to the public. The event will be live streamed, and you will have the opportunity to watch via Facebook on the MAG Facebook homepage. The theme of this year's press event is Dignity Denied, focusing on the dignity that is lost when older adults face abuse. Vice Chair Ernst will share a bit about the projects underway to assist older adults. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Kelly. The number of older adults who face abuse is staggering. This abuse could be physical, sexual, economic, emotional, etc. MAG has several projects underway to address the abuse of older and vulnerable adults in the region. Next slide, please. MAG and stakeholders have updated the region's vulnerable adult protocol. The updated protocol was approved in August and sent to stakeholders across the region for implementation. Next slide, please. Partners from many sectors of the community, including the Maricopa County Attorney's Office, prosecutors, law enforcement, adult protective services, healthcare, victim advocates, and more, helped us to achieve these goals, to improve the way we investigate and prosecute crimes against older adults, and to connect survivors with assistance and safety. With that, we'll transition back to Kelly.
Next slide, please. The Vulnerable Adult Protocol is available to anyone interested. It's posted to the MAG website, and it's available for you to review and implement. We hope that through regional tools like this, we can bring additional awareness to adults and vulnerable adults and help prevent them from experiencing domestic violence. We're working with statewide stakeholders such as the Arizona Prosecuting Attorneys Advisory Council and the Attorney General's Task Force on Senior Abuse to help share this protocol across Arizona. Next slide, please. MAG also partners with DES and other stakeholders on the Arizona Abuse and Later Life program. The project addresses abuse among older adults through statewide training and coordination. This is a multi-year grant in partnership with DES. Next slide, please. This is an item for action to recommend approval of the resolution honoring October as Domestic Violence Month. The resolution is available with the materials for today's meeting. We are available for questions about the resolution or any other part of the presentation. Thank you for your support and your time today. That concludes our presentation. Next slide shows action as requested.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from the membership? Okay, hearing none, this item is on the agenda to recommend approval of the resolution in support of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval. This is Ed from Phoenix.
Second, Reyes. Go ahead, Matt.
Sorry. I second Matthew Williams.
Okay, We have a motion for Mr. Zerker and a second for Mr. Williams. Is there any discussion of the motion? Hearing none, we call, oh, I'm sorry. Is there? No, okay. We'll go ahead and call for the roll call vote.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Management Committee. I'll call your name. Please unmute and indicate how you vote. Matt Busby.
Aye.
Thank you. Charles Montoya. Carrie Dyrek.
Aye.
Thank you. Josh Wright.
Aye.
Thank you. Crystal Dykes.
Aye.
Thank you. Benjamin Bitter.
Aye.
Thank you. Grady Miller.
Aye.
Thank you. Kathy Valenzuela.
Aye.
Thank you. Patrick Banger.
Aye.
Thank you. Kevin Phelps. Julie Cairns.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeff Kulaga.
Aye.
Thank you. Matthew Williams.
Aye.
Thank you. Joy Rich.
Aye.
Thank you. Chris Brady.
Aye.
Thank you. Jill Kymack.
Aye.
Thank you. Jeff Tyne.
Aye.
Thank you. Ed Zerker.
Aye.
Thank you. John Cross.
Aye.
Thank you. Scott Smith.
Sorry, aye.
Thank you. Jennifer Jack.
Aye.
Thank you. Mike Gent.
Yes.
Thank you. Reyes Madrano.
Aye.
Thank you. Vince Lorfice.
Aye.
Thank you. Jean Blackman.
Yes.
Thank you. Jody Rooney.
While this is certainly supportive, I have to abstain due to operating policy and procedures. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, how do you vote?
I vote aye.
Thank you. Is there anyone that I missed? The motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you. Our next item is item number 6, Draft Regional Transportation Plan Momentum 2050 and Draft Fiscal Years 2022 to 2025 Transportation Improvement Program. MAG Transportation staff, Audra Kester Thomas, will provide a report.
Thank you, Chairman Cheng, members of Management Committee. Pleased to be with you today to give you an update on the latest in the developments of our new regional transportation plan, but also our companion requirement documents, including the Transportation Improvement Program and Air Quality Conformity Analysis. Next slide. My presentation today will focus on 3 items. First, we'll cover the major developments and decisions made this summer as part of Momentum, our new investment strategy covering the years of 2026 to 2050, and talk about that investment policy plan developed in partnership with you, Transportation Policy Committee, and ultimately approved by Regional Council this summer. Then we'll talk about how it layers into our federal requirements of developing a metropolitan planning transportation plan, what we refer to as a regional transportation plan, as well as our Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, as well as our air quality conformity process associated with the development of both. And then we'll talk about our next and remaining next steps associated with enabling legislation and into next year. Next slide. So first, let's talk about momentum. Next slide. You are all quite familiar with our federally required performance-based evaluation process. This has been the agency's primary focus over the course of the last 18 months, developing an investment strategy for the anticipated extension of a 50-cent sales tax here for Maricopa County. We've spent the last 18 months going from a universe of approximately 1,400 different projects and program ideas, ultimately to a derived program of fiscally constrained investments this summer. Next slide. We started off in May presenting 4 different scenarios, 2 different concepts at 2 different funding levels. Sought public feedback and worked with all of you to get your feedback on the potential different strategies and options we had for our future. Next slide. the end of May, our Transportation Policy Committee gave MAG staff the direction to start with the system optimization half-cent scenario. Go back and work with all of you, our member agencies, to identify any remaining priorities that were missing from that scenario, and gave us the direction to potentially go over a half-cent if we needed to incorporate those priorities, or consider an extended term of the tax in order to incorporate those missing priorities. Next slide. After Memorial Day, we came back and provided two alternatives. One of a 6/10 cent of 20 years of a sales tax, or an alternative that didn't necessarily increase our cash flow, but committed an extra 5 years worth of projects out to a horizon year of 2050. Next slide. Direction that we received was a unanimous recommendation from Transportation Policy Committee to proceed with the half-cent 25-year option that was ultimately endorsed unanimously by Regional Council at the end of July. Next slide. So what is this proposed investment plan? Next slide. By way of reminder, while we focus a lot on a sales tax rate to be proposed to our voters in Maricopa County, when we go through these efforts, we include all funding available to the region. So in addition to a sales tax component, we include programmed funding that comes by way ADOT through the Highway User Revenue Fund, in addition to the federal formula funds that come to MAG as an MPO. In total, a 25-year horizon, again, from calendar year 2026 through 2050, provides a projected $36.7 billion for regional transportation investments. Next slide. We spend a lot of time focused on the regionally significant investments. Included here are the discrete projects that are included in the unanimously adopted proposal. You'll see here the freeway and highway projects, as well as light rail extensions, streetcar extensions, and bus rapid transit corridors that are included in this investment strategy, as well as the discrete arterial projects included in the strategy. Next slide. What doesn't often get the top billing, however, is our strategy to move to a programmatic approach. We got discrete direction from our policymakers that the challenge of planning over a horizon of 20 or 30 years is difficult, with new innovations and transportation technologies changing. And so this approach to continue with a programmatic investment strategy, furthering some of MAG's historical investments in programs like active transportation, safety, and ITS, was expanded to include new programs in arterials, as well as TDM expansion. Next slide. You'll see these discrete programs included on this slide. Active transportation is one of those that we received tremendous public support for, and that $1 billion over a course of 25 years. It's one of the largest investments we've seen of any of our peer regions. Continuation of our air quality mitigation strategies being in and on attainment area, an expansion of new arterial investment programs that look not only to expand our grid network, but also to modernize or reimagine how it's used, and also acknowledge the rehabilitation needs of the region. While we have a regionally branded transit program, it's largely locally funded, as all of you know. And while the region does support a small investment in our grid system, as part of this investment strategy, we've been almost able to double that amount to further expand and improve frequency on that grid network. We heard loud and clear from our policymakers that planning for tomorrow today is a priority. And so establishing an emerging technology program that even if we don't know what the technology solutions are today, we're poised and ready and nimble to be able to respond to technologies of the future. Continuation again of those ITS improvements that allow us to squeeze more operational value out of the system, as well as an expansion of our safety programs that are very popular and also seek extreme public support. And then finally, as mentioned, the establishment of a regional transportation demand management program, moving beyond just a van pool program that's really successful in this region to doing more to expand the utility of the investments we've already made in infrastructure beyond just our AM and PM peak periods. Next slide. We've updated the project website to include this investment strategy. We'll continue to provide more information as we move from the decision-making process and into the education and information process. Next slide. So now let's take a step back. While our focus in the last 18 months has been on planning decisions associated with funding from the year 2026 to 2050, our federal requirements for developing a regional transportation plan and TIP must include a much larger range of investments and planned investments for the entirety of our planning area. Next slide. We're governed through federal regulation for the developments of these two documents. Our RTP is a long-range vision. It's intended to articulate the planned investments over the horizon for the efficient movement of people and goods. Its horizon must be at least 20 years and is really focused on the regionally significant projects, those large capital-intensive projects and programs funded through resources made available to the region, and notably that federal formula funding. Our transportation improvement program is a shorter range and more discrete project listing. It includes all regionally significant projects, regardless of funding source, and by definition serves as the first 4 years of our regional transportation plan. Both the RTP and TIP must be performance-based, be fiscally constrained, and updated at least every 4 years. Notable and something we wanted to specifically emphasize with you all today is that we have to include all funding sources. And so while our focus largely has been for that year of 2026 to 2050, we now have to layer in and bring along our funded program of Proposition 400. We have four or 5 years left remaining in it, as well as the intended extension of Proposition 400, in addition to Pinel RTA projects included within our planning area, and any regionally significant, wholly locally funded projects. Of course, both our regional transportation plan and transportation improvement program must be air quality conformant. Next slide. We recognize that this may be a little confusing, so we wanted to direct your attention here to show you the intersection between two funded programs, our Proposition 400 program, as well as our proposed extension of Proposition 400, and how it intersects with our two federally required planning documents, the TIP, which is the next 4 fiscal years through the fiscal year 25, and how it layers within a regional transportation plan with our horizon of 2050. Next slide. Let's move on now to our next steps. Next slide. You're familiar here with our forward outlook. We are in the middle of our federally required air quality conformity process. And the presentation today is to announce that we will be going out for our public comment period starting Monday, September 13th, prior to bringing through the Regional Transportation Plan, Transportation Improvement Program, and Conformity Analysis for consideration and adoption by the end of the year. Next slide. We have completed our air quality and transportation modeling, and we'll be placing out for public review starting on Monday those documents for any public comment. It'll be a 30-day public comment period. We will collect any feedback received and then bring that back through as the policy committees consider action on the RTP, TIP, and conformity analysis by the end of the year. We'll start with Management Committee in November, as well as followed by Transportation Policy Committee, and then hope to have a celebratory event December 1st with Regional Council. It's important to remember that we also have to get concurrence from our federal partners, FHWA, to ensure that our RTP and TIP are conformant, and we expect that finding in early 2022. Next slide. But our work still isn't done. In fact, the majority of our work at staff level now focuses on enabling legislation. As you are all familiar, we are the only county in the state of Arizona that must seek first legislative authority to ask voters of Maricopa County for an extension of our important sales tax, which combined with HERF and federal formula funds enable the investment package we've worked hard to deliver. That focus will be the main work we do this fall and into this winter, and expect success with legislative session next year to enable placement on a Maricopa County ballot for voters' consideration next November 2022. Next slide. This item, again, today is only for information, but I wanted to use this opportunity to extend a tremendous amount of gratitude, specifically to Management Committee. An elevated role over the course of the last 18 months, Management Committee, and specifically the Management Committee work group, worked tirelessly alongside MAG staff, reviewing really technical information, series of technical memorandum and reports, as well as working with us and alongside us to prepare your mayors for the eventual series of decisions made this summer to have a unanimously approved investment plan. I know I speak on behalf of all of MAG staff. We don't take the unanimous decisions lightly, and we know we have you to thank, working tirelessly with us over the last 18 months, long into the evenings and weekends to ensure that your mayors were prepared for the series of decisions made this spring and ultimately culminating in the unanimous decisions this summer. Chairman Ching, I simply wanted to express my appreciation for the partnership, especially as we're heading into enabling legislation next year. And we stand ready to answer any particular questions Management Committee might have.
Thank you, Audra. Appreciate it. Are there any questions or comments from membership? Okay. Hearing none, this item is on the agenda for information and discussion only. So thank you, Audra and staff, for that excellent presentation. Next item, item number 7, is Census 2020 Data and Analysis Update. MAG Regional Analytics Division staff Scott Wilkin will provide a report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Management Committee. I'm Scott Wilkin from the Regional Analytics Division. Let's go to the next slide. As you're probably aware, the Census Bureau released their initial data set of Census 2020 results back about a month ago, August 12th. This is the data that's to be used for redistricting. So it's a bit of a limited data set, but it's the first taste of Census 2020 that we get. Our staff downloaded that as soon as it was available and started processing it. And within 24 hours, we created a website. You can see a screenshot of that on the slide right now. We put a number of tables and charts, things that we thought would be popular for our member agencies and the public to get an idea of what the data says. And you can go to that by going to azmag.gov/census. Next slide, please. There's a lot of data on there already, and there's more to come. Some of the highlights, we've got total population and housing, and then information about housing and population change since 2010, ranking data, data on race and ethnicity, and there's only 2 age categories, 0 to 17 and 18 plus with this data set. And so we have that breakdown. There's also information about vacancy rate and minority population change. We've got a number of maps for the region and for the state, and we put together a simple interactive map that you can access the data that has been released so far, and you can get to that through the same website, azmag.gov/census. we are planning a lot more to be added to that over the next few months. Next slide, please. Some highlights that we saw initially with this first data set. Phoenix is now officially the 5th largest city in the country. We'd suspected that based on estimates for a while, and we've officially passed Philadelphia to be the 5th largest city in the country. And among the 10 biggest cities in the country, Phoenix is the fastest growing. It's obviously the largest city in Maricopa County, making up 36% of the county's population growth, but it also accounted for almost 27%, or 36% of the county's population, but almost 27% of the growth itself. Phoenix's vacancy rate is also significantly below the regional average, and despite making up so much of the number of units in the region. In other news, Buckeye is the fastest growing city in the nation. The Census Bureau announced that, and when we dug a little deeper, we found that among cities that had a population of 50,000 or more in 2010, Buckeye was the fastest growing city in the country. Locally, Queen Creek had a larger population growth, but didn't qualify under that caveat there. And one of the race and ethnicity categories, non-Hispanic, other race, 2 or more races, grew by 142%. The Census Bureau has said that they expect some oddities with some of that data due to some changes in self-identification, but that is what the data says, and so we're going to be digging more into that as we move forward. Next slide, please. Here are some highlights for Maricopa County comparing to the state and the nation. Our population growth was a higher rate than the state in the country, as well as our age 18 plus population growth. Minority population growth was higher than the state, slightly lower than the U.S. as a whole, but some interesting nuggets there. Next slide, please. And when we look at the race and ethnicity categories for the 2020 census, we see that the U.S. has a population of 58% white non-Hispanic. Arizona is a little bit below that. Maricopa County kind of mirrors the state, but the map there on the right-hand side shows the percentage of minority population, non-white, non-Hispanic. And you can see that there are 5 counties across the state that have reached minority majority status if they weren't there already. And our region, Maricopa County and Pinal County, are knocking on the door of that 50% threshold as well. So we may see that over the next decade. Similar to that, there are 33 jurisdictions, cities and towns across Arizona that have 50% or more higher 50% or more minority population, including Phoenix, Tucson, Glendale, and Yuma. So those are all majority minority populations, as well as 29 other cities and towns. Next slide, please. And this is some things we found on our initial review. Next slide. We looked at, as you know, we create annual population estimates as of July 1 each year. The Census Bureau also creates July 1 population estimates. And so we compared the 2020 census results to those estimates to see how we did, really. And you can see the section on the right is the MAG state demographer estimates. We were very pleased with our results from Maricopa County being less than 0.5% away from the final 2020 count. The state demographer came within 2% for the state count, but was 10% off on the Pinal County results. And the Census Bureau's own estimates were all higher than that. And so those are some of the things that we're going to be investigating to see exactly why some of those estimates were so far off. But as far as our own models, estimates for Maricopa County, we were almost bang on, and we were very happy about that. Next slide. We looked at our housing unit count as compared to the results of Census 2020. On the screen right now, you can see some reds and greens for our member agencies in Maricopa County. The greens are the ones where the Census Bureau had more housing units than our data, and the reds are where we had more units than the Census Bureau. These are things, this is something we're definitely interested in. This should be a lot closer than it was, since we get the permit data and the housing completion data, and all that data goes to the Census Bureau, is incorporated into their results. And so we're going to be looking at this to see if we can find out why there are some of these discrepancies. Overall, for Maricopa County and our small Yavapai County portions, not too bad. If we go to the next slide, we can see that for Pinal County, it was a lot worse. And we don't have any answers for this yet, but we're going to be looking into this to see if we can tell where the data was disagreeing with the results. Hayden and Marana were great, but the rest of it we're quite a bit off. Next slide. So I mentioned some of the things we're planning on doing in the future, examining areas with big differences in housing unit count, and then comparing housing unit data with the assessor's office to see if there's some disagreement there. We're also going to be looking at the count question resolution process when information on that gets released by the Census Bureau. This is a process that cities and towns can go through if they think that there are housing units that were put in the wrong blocks or other census geographies, and maybe get credit for those as well. I know a few cities and towns did that 10 years ago, and we're planning on looking at all of the data to see if we can just give some advice to our member agencies to say, hey, maybe you want to look at these blocks and maybe submit for a CQR process, and you might get slight changes. Not very much. We don't think, based on 10 years ago, there's not a whole lot that's going to change, but this is something that the Census Bureau at some point in the near future will make available to cities and towns across the country. We're also going to receive finalized revised fiscal year estimates for population from the state demographer. We're going to look into occupancy rates and household size. These are really important to our demographic modelers, socioeconomic modelers, because these are the household size and occupancy rates that we use for the model throughout the decade. So we're going to look into that and see if we can confirm those, or we can see if there's anything wrong that we want to explore more. But those are going to be some things that we're looking at moving forward. Next slide, please. And before there are any questions, I want to take this opportunity to thank the Census Bureau for all of the hard work they did in a very, very unusual year, very unusual census. There were a lot of upset people that the data came out later than it was scheduled originally, but I think it's quite an accomplishment that they were able to do the census at all and get us the data in August. Moving forward, they're releasing a user-friendly version of this same data by the end of September. They don't have a firm date on that yet, but by the end of September, we should see some online tools and some reports by city. But it's all the same stuff that we have already. It's just packaged a little differently by the Census Bureau. And then over the next 6, 7, 8 months, they're going to be releasing more stuff from the census with a lot more stuff that you can dig into. The big thing is more age groups, but I think there's going to be a lot more detail on race and ethnicity, and some household renter and owner occupied data, stuff like that will be coming out. Mr. Chair, you've seen most of this presentation before at PopTech. If you have anything to add, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Otherwise, I can take any questions if anybody has any.
Thank you, Scott. Yes, I have, and I appreciate the work that you and your staff have done to bring this presentation to the management committee today, and that you stand by to assist cities if they have questions about the data and ways to look at the individual numbers for their communities. So thank you. Are there questions from membership?
Mr. Chairman, this is Roger.
Yes,
just
go ahead.
Comment, Mr. Wilken, I wanted to say thank you for a good report, and congratulations on your team's estimates being so close. We count on those, so good work. I did a minor clarification. You mentioned it was news that Buckeye is the largest, fastest growing in the country. For anyone who's on management and you heard me talk, that's not news. I say that all the time, but I'm glad you pointed that out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Questions? Very good. Hearing none. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion only. So we will close item number 7 and move to item number 8, legislative update. This item will not be heard today. We will now move on to item number 9, requests for future agenda items. Are there any requests by membership for any item on a future agenda? Hearing none, we'll close item number 9. We will now move to item 10, comments from the committee. Are there any announcements from membership today? Okay, I'll make a brief announcement. I believe that Ed Zerker is still here with us on the line. I know this is his last meeting with us in MAG management in his capacity as city manager and representative for the city of Phoenix. Had the pleasure to work for several years with Ed. We're certainly going to miss him as a regional leader and somebody who I think we all admire for his character and the way that he has conducted himself in this office for the many years here with the city of Phoenix, both before his promotion to manager and during that time. So thank you so much, Ed, for all you've done for the city of Phoenix and for this region.
Hey, Andrew, if I may, I also think it might be Vince's last meeting today with us from Wickenburg.
Okay. Thank you, Julie. Appreciate that. And also sentiments go out to you, Vince, for your time and your service to MAG management as well, and to your dedication to the region. And we wish you all the best to both you, Vince, and to you, Ed. Anyone else? Any other comments?
Thank you, Andrew. I just say a couple things. One of the great things about being city manager that they never tell you about is that you get to join this group of regional managers. And I just say, the professional and personal kindness that you all have shown me over 8 years is overwhelming when I think about it, because these are really hard jobs that very, very few people can identify with, but at least everyone in this group can identify with the challenges and the joys that come with being a city manager of a city. And, I think we're a strong region because of the group like this. This group is what helps keep this region strong. And even when we don't agree, so for example, maybe on a census, when we work together, we come up with really good ideas. And I want to especially thank MAG staff for helping facilitate that when we work together. I just encourage everyone to keep this in mind as we work on issues like homelessness. And I want to thank you, especially Andrew, because I know you've taken a personal and professional interest in it, and you've put a lot on the line to be a leader in homelessness, and that deserves recognition that you don't often get. So I want to say thank you, Andrew, to you for that. And I just thought I would also say I'd encourage everyone to think about the fact that regions are stronger when central cities are strong. And I want to thank Kevin Phelps and Patrick Banger for always being on board with that concept that a strong central city is not a threat to others. It is that actually makes everyone stronger. And I think the region has always embraced that and has worked well for that. So thank you all. I think you're going to really enjoy my successor, Jeff Barton, who's going to be voted in today to take my place starting on October the 8th. I am not leaving the region. I have things I'm looking at doing, but I don't have any set plans at this point. But I will still be around and look forward to cheering you guys all on and talking to you as any of you need to. So thank you all very much.
Best wishes, Ed.
Yeah, congratulations, Ed. You'll be missed.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments. I think if we were all here in person, this is the time where we'd all stand and give an ovation to Ed for his years of service to the region. So since we are not all together, we'll just have to imagine what that would have looked like and sounded like.
I'm miming it, Andrew.
Very good.
Very happy for you, Ed.
Okay. Unless there are any other comments, business is now concluded.